Mayan observatories took a circular form, an expression in stone of the wind and the cosmos. Did they inspire the tower observatories of the Southwest?
We found recently some small evidence of Mexican influence up in this area. And perhaps that's associated with the towers that are here, I don't know. I think they're still mysteries.
"300 miles from the Anasazi, another ancient people erected a temple to the skies. They too have disappeared, but they left behind an important clue. The observatory at Casa Grande, Arizona, remains as evidence that these Indians sought to understand the universe. Of an entire pueblo, only a few walls have survived the centuries. Despite the protection of its sheltering roof, the observatory may not last for another 50 years.
The Hohokam Indians.
Robert Hicks of the University of Arizona has been investigating Casa Grande.
The alignments are very similar to Mayan astronomical alignments at the Caracol Observatory in Mexico. We find the same alignments here as we do in the Caracol, and we feel that there was an influence from Central America. We feel that a representative of this Mayan elite, somebody with a specialized knowledge about astronomy and also site planning, may have come up to direct the construction of this building.
Most anthropologists do not accept this theory. But recently, scientists have uncovered new evidence that may redefine the extent of the Mayan legacy. In the deserts of the Southwest, this country's prehistoric astronomy reached its greatest heights. If there was a link between the ancient Mayans and the Indians of Cahokia, a continent away, perhaps we will find it here. A pueblo in New Mexico may well be the crossroads in that ancient connection. It is Chaco Canyon, built out of stone and brick by the Anasazi, architects of the mysterious towers in Utah. In a massive ceremonial structure called the Great Kiva, astronomers found evidence of a scientific knowledge that rivals anything we know today. At the summer solstice, Dr. Williamson has come to observe the dawn. Every year on the 21st of June, the sun repeats a timeless pattern.
All right. Now that will just about get the sun coming over. There it comes. We're here in Chaco Canyon in a great kiva, Casa Rinconada, to determine the astronomical alignments of this building that we're in. We're here on the solstice because on the solstice the sun comes through this port that you see and falls on that low niche over there. The solstice was a special time for the Indians who constructed this building. They needed to know when the solstice occurred to set their calendar.
At the winter solstice, a ritual of fire ushered in the new year. In December, the sun seemed to stop in its winter house. The Indians mounted an elaborate display of fire and light to prompt their god, the sun, and set the year in motion. The ceremony of fire can be traced to the ancient cities of Mexico. How did it come to the Anasazi? 1,000 years ago, the dwellings at Chaco were dug into the ground. Then, quite suddenly, an extraordinary change swept the canyon. The Anasazi began to build a city of towering pueblos. Almost overnight, Chaco became an active center of agriculture and trade. Its wealth based on the rich deposits of turquoise that lay nearby. The population grew to 25,000 men and women as the Indians learned to mine the stone. The turquoise attracted merchants from far away. Some believe that Mexican traders came north seeking the sacred stone for the worship of their god Quetzalcoatl.
Turquoise is the godstone for Quetzalcoatl. It was also important to some of the other Mexican
Dr. Jonathan Raymond of Illinois State University.
If Quetzalcoatl is going to be properly served, he's got to have the turquoise that he demands. Mexico had turquoise, but not enough. The Southwest had abundant turquoise, and so the merchants of Quetzalcoatl and the other deity cults came out of North Mexico into the Southwest looking for turquoise.
The merchants were men of high status called Pochteka, employed by the courts of Mexico to supply their temples with turquoise. To Chaco, they brought new crops, more productive corn. Was it simple trade or something more? For here were the peoples of two distant cultures speaking different languages. Did they achieve a deeper communication that reached beyond trade? Was information part of the exchange? At the head of the canyon, the Indians constructed an elaborate road system stretching for 300 miles. Was it built to welcome travelers from the south? Did the merchants also receive more than the sacred stone itself? Raymond believes the Anasazi not only supplied the raw turquoise, but actually worked it into finished products. The beads and ritual mosaics used by the Mexican culture thousands of miles away.
And in time, Chaco and the other areas around it came under the heavy influence of Mexican exploitation, economic exploitation, for the betterment of these religious cults of North Mexico.
In an excavation for the National Science Foundation, Raymond unearthed dramatic evidence to support his claim. He discovered two tombs that were like no others seen in this country. Two skeletons were found, laid out on thousands of turquoise beads. 12 men had been beheaded to accompany them in death. To Raymond, the implications were clear. These were the graves of important visitors from another land.
They're not your ordinary Pueblo people. These are someone special. I think Pochteka.
If the Pochteka did bring new crops to the north, they undoubtedly would have taught the Indians how to grow them, passing along the astronomical knowledge necessary for a seasonal calendar. Knowledge not only of the sun and the moon, but of the stars as well. Using a computer, Dr. Raymond has found evidence to substantiate his theory.
What we think the Anasazi watched is based on what we know the historic Pueblos, like the Zuni and the Hopi, watched. We have good historic records for this. We know that they watched Orion. We know that they watched the Pleiades. We know that they watched the Gemini twins.